Hey everybody, Dr. LeGrand here, and today we're going to be talking about how ADHD is not just a dopamine problem. So those who are new here, I am Dr. LeGrand, and I actually focus and help adults as well as others with ADHD and other symptoms similar to ADHD. And a lot of times people think that ADHD is just a dopamine problem. And so I'm here to discuss about how it's more than just a dopamine problem. And so the very first thing is we have to look at all the other aspects to our health and how a lot of these different things and organs in our body that can contribute to similar actually symptoms that are similar to ADHD, such as like brain fog, inattentiveness, focus issues, fatigue, even hyperactivity. All of these can also be similar to in other areas of our organs. And so the very first one that I want to discuss about here is looking at is our thyroid. So thyroid is definitely very prevalent amongst people with ADHD. And when you do have an unactive thyroid or a underperforming thyroid, such as having hypothyroidism, you're going to have symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, also irritability, as well as stress, as well as high blood pressure, and even poor concentration. So things that you should be looking for is things such as is TSH, so your thyroid stimulating hormone, which actually gets stimulated in the brain, is produced in the brain. And then also looking at free T3 and also free T4, as well as anti-TPO levels. All of these are necessary tests that you can actually run with your doctor to be able to understand what is actually going on here. And on top of that, it's important to understand that there is other aspects to this. So now talking about thyroid, the other thing also to look at is our adrenals. So adrenals is also a very important key because adrenals release things such as norepinephrine, epinephrine, as well as cortisol. So cortisol is a vital thing that has to do with our energy throughout the day. And if we're not getting enough adequate energy throughout the day, enough cortisol, especially when we first wake up, doesn't really get us up in the morning. We're going to feel groggy and tired. We're not going to be able to have even focus throughout the day, and we're going to have that mental fatigue. So it's important to look at the adrenal functionality, and this is something I do see common among a lot of adults with ADHD specifically, that they will reach burnout and they will have some adrenal issues. So it's important to look at things like your cortisol levels. So give me a second, switch over that. So cortisol. So this is another reason why it isn't just always a dopamine problem. It can also be another problem such as cortisol. Now let's move on to hormones. So looking at things such as estrogen, progesterone, and also testosterone. And then also DHEA, which is also a precursor to testosterone, as well as estrogen. So if any of these levels are low, it can impact our mood significantly, and it can cause symptoms such as brain fog, as well as low energy. It can cause poor concentration, so similar symptoms to ADHD. And then on top of that, it can cause even things such as depression and other issues that could be contributing to not just your ADHD symptoms, but your overall health. So it's important to look at these things. And something that I do see all the time when I'm working with my patients that do have ADHD is when we run these tests, we do see a lot of imbalances, and it does contribute to your ADHD symptoms. This is why it's so important to understand that it isn't just a dopamine problem. There is so much more to your ADHD health than just looking at your dopamine. Now, the other one is also looking at, and you've talked, you guys probably, if you've been following me for a while, the importance of looking at your digestive system, because the brain and gut are very interconnected, and it's what we call the brain-gut axis, because there's so much going on in the digestive system. And I look at it as like a factory, like our factory system in our body. So if you think of a factory, if the main machine is not properly breaking down and producing what you want it to produce in a factory, the same with our body. The digestive system is important for producing all the nutrients for our body, but especially for our brain. And if that's not working, guess what? You're going to have all the similar symptoms that you do get with ADHD, with lack of motivation, drive, focus, all things, as well as stress and anxiety. So let's talk about a few here. So liver, why the liver is so important when it comes to our ADHD health is because I've seen this a lot, is especially if you're taking high amounts of medications, everything gets passed through the liver. And so over years, if you've been taking medications for years, and not just your ADHD medications, but high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever, you name it, it goes through the liver. And over time, it can be really taxed because the liver is the main organ for detoxifying our body. And so over time, the liver will start underperforming. And the liver is so critical on so many different levels. It helps with converting lots of different hormones. So the hormones that we were just talking about before, even thyroid hormones, as well as importance for iron, which we'll talk about here in a minute, why that's also something that we see in ADHD, as well as gluconeogenesis, which has a lot to do with glucose levels and our sugar levels and balances there, as well as other things that have importance for our brain. Because if that's not working, we will see symptoms of brain fog, fatigue, and also focus and lack of motivation when we have an underperforming liver. So it's always important. I do see this very common with my patients with ADHD, seeing an underperforming liver. Next one is stomach. So the stomach, if you think about it, very simple, right, is we're just digesting our foods. So why would this have to contribute to ADHD symptoms, and looking at that is important for your ADHD health? Well, when we think about the stomach, well, there's a couple main big things. One is, of course, the job is to breaking down its food. So when you are consuming foods, its job is to break down those foods and through stomach acidity. Now, a lot of times I do see with ADHD patients is there is not enough stomach acidity. In fact, they have underperforming, or it could be an increase of stomach acidity. And so it's not breaking down the foods properly. And then on top of that is also looking at your pancreas that produce different pancreatic enzymes to break down those macronutrients, so your proteins, fats, and carbs. But on top of that, also breaking down the nutrients that you do need, like your B vitamins, all your different vitamins that feed the brain and feed the rest of the body. So if your digestive system, just starting from the beginning, is not working, then you guarantee that it's also going to affect your large and small intestine. In fact, it will cause inflammation. It's where we do see a lot of patients, especially ones I do see, have a lot of digestive complaints, such as irritable bowel syndrome, and also, other like Crohn's disease and other digestive complaints that we do see. And even if it's just gas and bloating, that is definitely symptoms that is a sign, early warning signs that your digestive system is not giving the proper nutrients to your brain. So therefore it can contribute to your ADHD symptoms. And so why it's so critical to be testing this and looking at this. Moving on to the next is, I've talked about this before, is the gut microbiome. So the gut microbiome definitely is important for not only for our immune system, but also on top of that, 90 to 95% of our neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. So things such as dopamine, glutamate, as well as GABA and serotonin, all very important things for our ADHD health. Then moving on to looking at neurotransmitters. So when we think about dopamine, now I'm not here to say that dopamine is not important. It is with ADHD and also norepinephrine. But there's a slew of so many other different neurotransmitters that we do need to also be addressing, and things that I always see when I'm running different neurotransmitters and amino acids that we do see imbalances of. So things such as like serotonin that can cause why you might be depressed or also could be anxious. Even elevated levels of dopamine can cause you to feel more anxious and have anxiety. Why maybe you also might not be doing good with stimulant medications, because you might already have high levels of dopamine to begin with. Also looking at things such as like tryptophan levels, looking at melatonin levels, epinephrine, GABA. GABA has a lot to do with our mood. Epinephrine has a lot to do with managing our stress. And I've also mentioned amino acids like, looking at phenylalanine, because this is a precursor to dopamine. So that's another thing that you also have to look at when it comes to really understanding why you are having issues with ADHD symptoms, and not just it being a dopamine problem. Then the other things I want to kind of mention here is the importance of micronutrients. And this is also backed up by a lot of research, but also when I've been working with patients with ADHD, I've seen it significantly where I do see imbalances in these specific micronutrients. Now, I didn't list all of them here, but I want to kind of give the big ones. Big ones is definitely magnesium we'll see low. Iron levels will definitely be low. Zinc, vitamin B, particularly vitamin B6 and vitamin B12, but also all the other B vitamins I will also see typically low. Vitamin D, which also contributes a lot to our immune system, but also our mood and energy. And we'll see those low in people with ADHD, and also vitamin C, which is also critical, along with magnesium and zinc and iron, to help with also building those different neurotransmitters and our cofactors. Then also looking at heavy toxic metals. So if you've been exposed in a house, living in a house in 1970s or older, you have a higher chance of possibly actually having issues with having heavy exposures to heavy metals, as well as being next to a factory, or eating fish from where they maybe gather it close to a factory. and so much more that can be contributing in our food. So it's always good to look at this because this can cause symptoms of ADHD. So those are the really big ones. In fact, if you really are wanting to understand if you do have these issues, it does require further investigation through advanced testing and functional medicine testing, which I do with a lot of my patients and clients. So if you are really looking to take the next step and really take advantage of understanding what's going on with your own ADHD, you could book a one-on-one consultation with me. It's 45 minutes to an hour. It's a $750 value, along with also doing in-depth questionnaire with me, as well as interpreting any past labs you've done in the last 3 to 6 months. I'll look over those as well. And then on top of that, if you do book today, you get access to the ADHD health course. And then on top of that, this whole value is $1,494. But here live, you actually get it for just $197. So the link is in the description below if you want to book that consultation with me to take advantage of this great discount. And once you book that call, all you got to do is put in your information. Then it'll take you to this page to schedule a time. If there should be morning, afternoon, and evening time. So I try to balance it out. If for some reason it doesn't work, just email me and let me know. And then you will fill out your other information and let me know what you're coming in for. And then you will come to this landing page where to make sure to confirm, check your email that you got the confirmation appointment, as well as an email to activate your Practice Better account, which is our client portal. And that's where you're going to fill out the online client questionnaire, as well as upload any previous labs you do have. And also make sure to block out the time for 45 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how many questions you do have. But this is a way to basically customize an action plan for your ADHD health. All you got to do is click on the link below. Thank you guys for attending, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.